श्री श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Today we will be discussing now the first canto, second chapter, named Divinity and Divine Service, and verse number 28 and 29. Vasudeva Paraveda, Vasudeva Paramakha, Vasudeva Parayoga, Vasudeva Parakriya, Vasudeva Param Jnanam, Vasudeva Param Tapa, Vasudeva Paro Dharmo, Vasudeva Paragati. Translation. In the revealed scriptures, the ultimate object of knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. The purpose of performing sacrifice is to please him. Yoga is for realizing him. All fruitive activities are ultimately rewarded by him only. He is supreme knowledge, and all severe austerities are performed to know him. Religion, dharma, is rendering loving service unto him. He is the supreme goal of life. Purport. So it's a long purport. We'll just read the first paragraph only. That Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is the only object of worship is confirmed in these two slokas. In the Vedic literature, there is the same objective, establishing one's relationship and ultimately reviving our lost loving service unto Him. That is the sum and substance of the Vedas. In the Bhagavad Gita, the same theory is confirmed by the Lord in His own words. The ultimate purpose of the Vedas is to know Him only. All the revealed scriptures are prepared by the Lord through His incarnation in the body of Srila Vyasadeva just to remind the fallen souls conditioned by material nature of Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. No demigod can award freedom from material bondage. That is a verdict of all the Vedic literatures. Impersonalists who have no informations of the personality of Godhead minimize the omnipotency of the Supreme Lord and put him on equal footing with all other living beings. And for this act, such impersonalists get freedom from material bondage only with great difficulty. They can surrender unto him only after many, many births in the culture of transcendental knowledge. That's it. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपां साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिनि नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणि निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणि वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतिसे नमः पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्ण भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताक्षं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी मानोसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरि प्रिय जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. So, really seek the blessings of all the assembled devotees so that we can share some glories of the Lord for our purifications. So, it's a very beautiful two verses. It is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the glories of Bhagavat. That Krishna Tulya Bhagavata Vibhu Sarvasraya Prati Sloke Prati Arthe Nana Arthakaya. That Srimad Bhagavatam is not different than Krishna and Vibhu Sarvasraya, and it is also same characteristics of Krishna. It's also Vibhu. It's unlimited and is a Sarvasraya, like yes, and it is a shelter of everyone. And Prati Sloke Prati Akshare, and each of the sloka, each of the words, and they have so many meanings. And especially here we see that how the word Vasudeva has been given so many attributes. So in these two verses, 8 attributes are there. And once you meditate on each of them, definitely each of them can take its own time. But then we'll just try to summarize it. Because it's for all the sadhakas. That's why Sanatana Goswami also says, right? Paramananda Pathaya Prema Varsi Aksarayate. Prema Varsi, like from each of the syllable of Bhagavatam, Prema Varsha, the nectarian rain really showers out. So yes, it's up to us to receive that mercy. So here, we have been in this verse number 28 and 29. So where are we at this point of time? So we heard that in the first chapter, like of Sanakadi Rishis, they asked how many questions? 6 questions. And here, right in this section, this verse 28, 29 is the answer to which questions? We have now covered most of the second chapter now. So we should also understand where are we right now? Which is the question is being answered in this section? Especially at the beginning of the second chapter. Which are the questions being answered? First and second. What is the first question? What is the ultimate and absolute good for people in general? And what is the second question? What is the essence of the scriptures for the people? So these are the two questions primarily answered, right? Especially in this section. Of course, towards the end of this second chapter, even verse like question 3 and 4 also will be, partially answered. But in the beginning of the second chapter, Sutta Goswami, after praying his, offering his prayers to Sukadeva Goswami, and doing his Mangalacharan, he started glorifying the essence of the scriptures. What is the servant substance? What is the ultimate good for people in general? And what is that? Bhakti. Ahetuki, apratihata bhakti, yato bhakti radhokshaja. Like yes, the bhakti to the adhokshaja, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And yes, he has emphasized so much that tasmad ekena vanasa bhagavan sattvatam pasi. Like yes, we understand that bhakti is the supreme, but then how to do bhakti? Srotovya, kirtitabhyascha, smartabhya, dheya, pujyascha nityada. Yes, you should follow this Navavida bhakti. Dheya, pujyascha nityada. We should do that all the time. And then, yes, the byproduct will be, yes, jnana and vairagya and all these byproducts will appear. And then, Sutta Goswami not only talks about the bhakti is the supreme, but also he talks about the stages of bhakti. Like as Rupa Goswami talks about from the Shraddha to Prema, or like in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur about the 14 stages. So, right, we heard, like especially from the verse number 16 to 22, from the Syan Mahatseva Vipra, like, how do you really get the Shraddha by surrendering and to the Acharyas, to the Mahatseva, and to the Mahats, to the devotees of the Lord. We get Shraddha, and then we really develop Prema, right? That Vidyate Hridaya and Dushtya, Ivatmaniswari, like, we really realize the Supreme Lord in our heart, we develop that Prema. And now, from the verse 23 onwards, Sutta Goswami, he emphasizes one more important section, right? Not only bhakti, the different stages of bhakti, but to whom we have to do bhakti. To whom we have to do bhakti. So in this section, he talks about, yes, we are not talking about bhakti to devatas, who are the different hands of God, who are the representatives of the God. Or also, he's saying that, we should not, do bhakti, about the different guna avatars, especially who are representing the mode of passion and against Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma, but only to Lord Vishnu. Because he gives a very nice analogy. He says that, like Like this wood is better than earth, and then the smoke is better than wood, and the fire is better than smoke. And similarly, the mode of passion is better than mode of ignorance, and the mode of goodness is better than mode of passion. Similarly, he is saying that yes, the worship of Lord Narayana, worship of Lord Vishnu is the highest. And here in this two verses, he really summarizing, and Prabhupada, putting that in the beginning only, the sum and substance. What is the objective of these two verses? He's saying that the Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is the only object of worship. Only object of worship. Right? He is really called out again and again. Right? That's what we hear. So first of all, we might ask that why worship? Why worship? Like yes, once you worship the Lord, yes, we, it's an objective appreciation of the beauty of the Lord, the glories of the Lord, and at the same time, it's a personal emotions, right? This is the way we really connect to the Lord. We share our gratitude to the Lord, and also we ask for the protection of the Lord. Right? That's why when we hear this beautiful prayer of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as he was going in the South India Yatra, he was chanting this. Right. Krishna, 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 Krishna hai, nana pahi mam, trahi mam, raksha mam. So why, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a Supreme Lord, does he really, need to ask for the protection? Right? Or was he really afraid of the, some, in South India, there will be some, they call it somebody would be there, some animals, wild animals. Why he is really asking for trahi mam, pahi mam, raksha mam? Why he is asking? Right? And we need to really understand that how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, playing the mood of a devotee, is asking for the protection. But what is that protection? And our Acharya is saying very, very beautifully, right? What is the protection the devotee really asks for? Because a devotee feels that the greatest calamity of a devotee, of a living entity, is the forgetfulness of the Lord. Is the forgetfulness of the Lord. And a devotee really prays sincerely to the Lordships. How that relationship can be awakened, that can be nourished, that can be maintained. Right? That's the only prayer a devotee asks to the Supreme Lord. And here in this paragraph also, Srila Prabhupada calls out that very beautifully. The sum and substance of the Vedas is really to understand the Sambandha, Vidya and Provision, to understand who are we. Right? Because most of the people, they say that, they don't know God. There is no God. Once they say there is no God, means they don't know God. Right? They don't know God. Like I remember in Bhubaneswar, Srila Prabhupada was there in January 77. And in one of the lecture, somebody asked, Swamiji, what is God? Who is God? And Prabhupada got so much of, angry that you are born in a Bharatavarsha, the land of Krishna and Rama and so many acharyas have appeared, and you are asking who is God, what is God? And it's so shameful. Right? And then he chastised, and with the Lord's arrangement, he went to one more lecture, and one more person asked, Oh Swamiji, what is the meaning of Krishna? And once again, Prabhupada charged up. Yeah, it's also the same question like the other day, somebody asked who is God? What is God? Don't you really understand this much? That who is Krishna? Krishna is all attractive. Right? And like how unfortunate it is, right? Yes, this means that we are really heading towards the animal civilization. We don't have any, understanding of our scriptures. This is a symptom of, the misfortune. Right? Even like we are born of this pious land of Bharatvarsha, we should really know. Right? But then after going through all this, like somebody, after going through maybe Ramayana, somebody might ask that, okay, Srila Prabhupada was saying that, right? That Sita is whose father? Right? Yes. Like, this is the basics, right? We should really try to understand who is Vasudeva, who is Krishna, who is Ram, right? And unfortunately, right, people don't have that sufficient knowledge of their lordships. That, Prabhupada quotes here from the Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter. Especially I was hearing this lecture from Srila Prabhupada from this verse. He quotes initially this Vasudevam Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlava from the Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter. He says that how there are four kinds of duskritinas are there. There are four kinds of people who don't surrender to Krishna. There are four kinds of people who surrender to Krishna, Artha Jigyasu Artharthi. And out of that, Jnani is the topmost. And the Jnani, why? Right? Because he kind of tried to understand Atma Tattva. And he tried to understand, who am I? Who is the Supreme Lord? There was one more, right? I think morning walk that was there in Paris in August 75. Prabhupada was traveling like with his disciples. And then some of the disciples asked Prabhupada, can you define what is the responsibility? And Srila Prabhupada explained very succinctly. He said 9 words. What is that 9 words? He said, we have this human life. We must realize God. That is our responsibility. Right? This is Atma Tattva. Right? This is what we should really, Athata Brahma Jigyasa. Right? And Prabhupada was saying that, yes, we have a greater responsibility. Right? Not only as a human birth, but now being somehow coming in association with the devotees. Just like Prabhupada says that in a government officer, right, a big officer might be overburdened with a lot of responsibilities somehow or other. Like Prabhupada saying that, why I am traveling 3 times a year, right, traveling all over. It is just to, because we have that responsibility to be Krishna consciousness and to share Krishna consciousness with everybody. Right? And he says that like fulfilling material responsibility, yes, we might do the needful, but it's a waste of time. Right? How Krishna consciousness is the greatest responsibility, to be Krishna consciousness and to share Krishna consciousness. So here, right, in this chapter, Bhagavad Gita 7, chapter the 7.19, right, Lord says that yes, Bahunam Janmanamante, right, after taking many births, that Athata Brahma Jigyasa, that Brahma Jigyasa, that Atma Tattva, right, in this, we just heard also in our Bhakti Vaibhav 2.9.4, the Atma Tattva means understanding of the Jivatma and Paramatma, right, understanding who we are and understanding of who is the Supreme Lord and what is our relationship. Right? And yes, then only we really understand who is Vasudeva. And then we might ask, okay, now we have sufficiently understood who is Vasudeva, what are his qualities, who is Vasudeva? Yes. Okay, there are different realizations, like we discussed about the Badanti Tattva Vedas, right? Right? But then yes, the topmost understanding, the complete realization is a Vasudeva is the son of Vasudeva. Right? And of course, he has unlimited qualities. And sometime back when we were returning after Puri Yatra, we were asking devotees, which are the places you remember? Do you remember this lesson? And then I said, okay, do you remember, Ananta Vasudev temple? I said, no, I don't remember. Said, no, you had a nice prasadam there, just like Puri. Yes. Yes, Lord Ananta Vasudeva temple prasadam is famous, but at the same time, like Ananta, it's like his qualities are unlimited, like especially in the 11th canto, there is a nice sloka, which defines Ananta. Yava Anantasya Gunan Anantan Anukramisyati Savala Buddhi Rajamsi Bhumer Ganayat Kathantit Kalena Naikaila Sakti Dhamna. So maybe somebody can really, count the number of atoms, number of sands in the whole, earth, right? But nobody can really count the glories of Lord Ananta. That's why he's called Ananta. That's a quality of Lord Vasudeva. Right? Yes, I remember even, Prabhuji was, once he was giving this class on the first sloka, oh no, Bhagavata Vasudeva, he was really quoting from this 11th canto, from the 16th chapter, like, that's why, like, it is mentioned that Sattvatam Nava Murtinam Adir Murtir Ahampara, right? Yes, Vaishnavas usually worship 9 forms of Supreme Lord, like Vasudeva, Sankarsana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, Narayana, Narsimha, Hayagriva, and so on. Right? And out of that, the main, is it? Adir Murti Ahampara, the Vasudeva Krishna, he is the Adi Murti. Right? So, yes, that's what the understanding of Brahma as well, like, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamam Bhajami, right? And we hear this discussion, as we also heard that in 2nd canto, 5th chapter, right? There's a discussion between Narad Muni and Brahma, right? Like, and how Narad Muni approaches Brahma and says that, oh, Brahma ji, you are the everything, from you everything comes. Just like a spider, you are really manifesting everything. At that point in time, Brahmaji says, oh Baba, I'm not everything. And I'm really worshipping Lord Vasudeva. Tasmai Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhimahi. Right? And then, like, can you really believe exactly the same verses? Like, same kind of verses. Like Brahmaji also repeats, Narayana para Veda, Narayana para Angraja, Narayana para Loka. Like, says, he says, Narayana is everything. He really, calls out that. Right? So to emphasize to Narad Muni that yes, I'm really just maybe the secondary creator, I'm maybe the instrument, but Lord Narayana, Lord Vasudeva, he is everything. So here in this kind of section, it is also mentioned that how no one should worship demigods, no one should also equal Lord Narayana, Lord Krishna's position to be equal to even the Brahma and Shiva, especially towards the end of this purport also. And Prabhupada calls out very beautifully how Lord Krishna is a transcendental to all the modes. Right? He's transcendental. We can hear this beautiful pastime, right? Like, the legendary pastime how Aswathama was really bound by Arjuna when Aswathama really killed the 5 sons and when bound. At that point of time, there's this nice sloka given by Sukadeva Goswami that how, not Sukadeva Goswami, it's, I think it's Sutta Goswami only, right? How he talks about that when Arjuna got angry, his eyes become red like copper, right? And Krishna's eyes still was a lotus petal, like, Angraja, like it says, So how Lord Krishna is always transcendental to all the modes. He's not really not affected by any modes, right? Prabhupada gives the example, the prisoner and the manager of the prison. Right? So though they might be in the same place, but a manager is really transcendental. So Lord Krishna, he is always transcendental, to all the modes. Right? So now let's go step by step to the different words, different parts of this purport, and also to this verse. First one is Vasudeva Paraveda. What is Vasudeva Paraveda? The ultimate object of knowledge is Sri Krishna. Right? Yes. Prabhupada brings this point from Bhagavad Gita, Vedasya Saravar Aham Veda Vedanti Krideda Videvechaham. How the essence of Veda is Lord Krishna, and he is the compiler of all the Vedas. I remember in Sanatana Goswami also says that same thing to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the discussion, right, in Varanasi. He says, Saksa Dissuratoi Brajendra Nandana, Tomara Niswasa Sarva Veda Pravartana. Tamar says, oh Mahaprabhu, from your breath, all the Vedas that are really coming out, right? And all the Vedas are taking shelter of you, right? Like Sutta Goswami also brings that in, towards the end of the Bhagavatam, that Yam Brahma Varunandras Tuvanti Dibhyastu Vedir Sangha Padakram Upanishad Gayanti Yam Samaga, all the Devatas, Brahma, Rudra, Varuna, everybody is really, taking shelter of this Veda, Upanishad and Anga and everything, and really always, singing your glories, right? This is sum and substance of the Vedas, right? How they can be really used, for the Lord's service. And most importantly here, Prabhupada quotes that how Vyasadeva, understanding the unfortunate situation of Kali Yuga, right? Who is Lord Krishna himself. He really, after the discussion with Narad Muni, right? And then Sanukadi Rishi is asked, okay, what happened to Vyasadeva after the discussion? And at that point, Sutta Goswami says, yes, when Narad Muni left, what Vyasadeva did? Vyasadeva said, on the bank of Saraswati, which is also Vedas personified, right? On the western bank of Saraswati, and then, what he did? Anartha upasamam sakshat bhakti yogam adhakshaje lokasya ajanata vidvam chakre satvata samhita. Right? How unfortunate are people? They don't know what is really good for them. What is the ultimate good? Right? Bhakti adhakshaja bhakti is the topmost thing. But how people have forgotten it. And just to do that, just to kind of give the medicine, just to take out of all their superfluous activities, the anarthas, I have come here to give that. Chakre Satvata Samhita. That's why now he started compiling Srimad Bhagavatam. That's a Sarva Vedanta Sarami Sri Bhagavatam Isyate. Yes, it's important for all of us to take shelter. What Srila Vyasadeva has given, the essence of all the Vedas, the Vedanta Sutra, the commentary of Vedanta Sutra, and Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, so that's what the essence of all the devotees. At the same time, here, Prabhupada also writes that, how the Mayavadi or Krishna Aparadhis, right, like especially Aruhya Kruchana Parampadam Tata, like even if they have some understanding of the Lord because they don't have complete realization, they really fall down. And yes, as we proceed further, right, Here Siddha Goswami said Vasudeva Paramakha, and he is the purpose of sacrifice is to really please him, like Yajna by Vishnu. Yajna means Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu. Yes, Yajnarthat karmana netarlokayam karma bandhana. Yes, whatever we do, we should really try to please Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna. Right? If you don't do it as a sacrifice, for pleasing Lord Vishnu, then we are incurring in the bondage, in the cycle of bondage. And I was remembering there is a very nice section, and especially in the first canto, 17th chapter, once again in the discussion between Maharaj Parikshit and Kali. At that time, Maharaj Parikshit says to Kali that because this is a Brahmavarta, and this Brahmavarta, we are performing this yajnas, and that's why you don't have any place. So wherever there is yajna, there is no place for Kali. Right? And this yajnas are like, what is it? It's really about real pleasing the Lord. It's a matter of sharing our gratitude to the Supreme Lord for whatever He has given to everything. And then what is the best form of yajna? Sankirtana yajna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Like our Bhagavad Gita Lord says, Yajnanam yapo yogyasmi, or Yajna Sankirtana Payari, Janti Sumathasa. Yes, how this Sankirtana Yajna, it can be really broadcasted, it can be really spread. Srila Prabhupada saying that in that purport that yes, especially the Sankirtana Yajna can be really, performed at any place, at any time to establish the supremacy of the Lord. And then with that, there will be no place for the Kali. Right? And then, right, we hear that, Vasudeva Para Yoga. Right? I remember Prabhuji was giving on Sunday morning very nice class. Right? He was saying that sometimes nowadays, even in our devotee circle also, we misuse the term yoga. Oh, I'm doing yoga every day morning. But basically we are referring to some yoga, some asanas and some pranayams, right? That how, it's so blatantly misused or abused, the term yoga. But real yoga, we hear of this, in the Ashtanga yoga, the 10 yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, and all that, right? So, but then Prabhupada also as a lecture to this verse 28, 29, he says that nowadays yoga means nose pressing exercise, or maybe to get rid of some disease. Right? But that's not the essence of the yoga. Yoga is to really use means to connect with the Supreme Lord. And yes, the Sankhya yoga or this Ashtanga yoga, the purpose is really, to realize the Paramatma within the heart. But then once you have go through this complete process of this Ashtanga yoga or Sankhya yoga also, you have a partial understanding, a partial realization of the Supreme Lord. The complete realization happens only yoginam api sarvesam madgatena antara sadhavan vajate. Only we really connected lovingly, to the Supreme Lord Krishna. Right? And that is the complete understanding. So Prabhupada also gives this in purport that somehow or other, if somebody, right, after unsuccessfully performing this so-called Ashtanga yoga, they might fall down, and they might be fortunate enough to Suchinam Srimatam Gehe, they might appear in a good pious family, in a opulence family. But if they don't use that properly, right, once again they fall down. Right? So ultimately, right, we should really understand how we should really connect to the Supreme Lord Krishna, and that should be the really, the objective of the yoga. And then as he further, he's saying that Vasudeva Para Kriya, all the activities, are like the result of all the fruitive activities are rewarded by him only, and all the activities should be performed, for his pleasure. We heard this couple of days back, right? Some Siddhir Horidosanam, the sum and substance of everything is to please Lord Hari, right? Or in this 11th canto, once again, this is a very famous verse that is really mostly quoted in most of the pujas, right? Kayena vacha manasendriya va buddhyatmana va vanusrutya smaranat, right? Karoti yadya sakalam parasme narayana iti samarpayate. Yes, whatever we do, the whole objective is that how we really use our kaya, mana, bhakya, all our activities, for the pleasure of the Lord. And somebody might ask that, okay, I might just do my activities and I offer something to our devatas. Is it not good enough? Right? And that's a purport, Prabhupada's disciples, quoting Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Thakur and Jiva Goswami, they write that, yes, somebody might be following the laws of the government, right? Is it good enough? Yes, okay, they are doing the needful, but the real, citizen, is that, who really, follows, who really, loves, the government, right? So it means that, like, what, Siva Goswami is saying, that, a lover of Krishna, a devotee of Krishna, right, is the one who just does not only just follow some rules and regulations of these, scriptures, but he becomes a lover of Krishna, right? And how you share our love of Krishna? By, hearing and chanting. That's what Bhakti Saraswati Thakur also, and apparently still a conditioned souls who offers the fruits of all the activities can no longer be. But but if somehow or other, if we dedicate all our fruits of activities to the Supreme Lord, we engage everything in the service of Supreme Lord, and then we will not be conditioned by the material miseries of the life. Right? Yes, and how Prabhupada really engaged all his disciples, in the service of the Lordships. Like remember in this Hare Krishna festival that Prabhupada had organized, and he engaged his disciples. Either it's a Samsundar Prabhu for publicity, or Giriraj Maharaj for fundraising, or Tamil Krishna Maharaj for some pandal arrangement, Maharaj for the on-stage program. So how understanding the different capabilities, the competencies, right? How Prabhupada really organized, right? Right, yes. And then you hear that Vasudeva Param Jnanam, like Prabhupada quotes from this Bhagavad Gita 13.8 to 12, these 5 verses, how this is the essence of all the knowledge, right? And in this, the first purport, the first paragraph of that purport, Prabhupada writes down that, the essence of all these, instructions, all aspects of the knowledge, the most important is it? My Chananya Yogena Bhakti Vaibhav. Yes, it really starts with the starting of the knowledge is Amanityam, the humility. But the essence of knowledge is how we can really, My Chananya Yogena Bhakti Vaibhav. Abhyacharani Bhakti, how we really do the Supreme Lord. Right, and Prabhupada also quotes a very nice example in this section. Prabhupada says that recently I was in MIT, and then I asked them, right, you're doing so much of research, so much of technology, but is there any technology which can really differentiate between a living and dead person? Right? Yes, we might be also always associated with so many animals, like what is a panda, anaconda, and spider, gopher. Maybe for Prabhuji, these are different technologies that is there. And now how we can use really, not with just animals by associating with these animals, but how we can really use these animals also in the service of the Lord. Otherwise we just become a digital drunkards. Right, how we don't know what is really right and wrong, right? And then, right, Vasudeva Para Tapa, right, yes, all the tapasya that we do is only for the perform to know him, right? All the Prabhupada defines the word tapasya here, and tapasya means taking care of some voluntary bodily inconvenience to know Vasudeva. Right, and he quotes yes, Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, or some politicians, they do also so many tapasyas, but that's not the real tapasya. The real tapasya is tapodivyam putrakayena suddhim brahma sokyam tanando. How we can really please the Lord. That's where we really get the real happiness, and that's the real tapasya through which we can really get rid of all the sinful activity. Kechit kavalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana. Right, by that all the sinful activities, everything will be really taken care once you take shelter of Lord Vasudeva. Vasudeva para dharma, right? Yes, the religion, especially in this, we heard that, dharma hi apavargasya. Yes, dharma is to really, get out of this, cycle of this birth and death. And not only that, but to really, establish and really loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord, right? And especially in the verse 25 purport, Prabhupada saying that, the purpose of religion matter is not for some profit or material gain, but to really, establish ourselves as a loving, devotee, to establish ourselves in the, right, in our constitutional position to serve the Lord. And what is the dharma? What is the religion? Dharma to saksat bhagavat pranitam. All the codes of the law that has to be really served by everybody, not only the certain section of people like Hindu or something like that. It's for everybody, and that's really given by the Lord. Right? Yes, and especially devotee says that whatever we do, naha yat karma dharmaya, na viragaya kalpate. Yeah, all the karma should lead to dharma, and dharma should vairagya, and vairagya should lead to bhakti. Na tirtha pada sevai jivan api mruta hisa. If it's not really leading this karma to dharma, dharma to vairagya, and vairagya to the bhakti, to the Supreme Lord, and the person is really a dead. And then most importantly, the last one is the Vasudeva Paragati. Yes, we should really understand that Lord Krishna, Lord Vasudeva is the aim of life, is the goal of life, right? Yes, and Prabhupada, that's why it's called out very clearly to all of us, we need to go back to Godhead, back to Godhead, right? Yes, a devotee really doesn't want anything else, no other, nothing else, right? Like even like devotee says that, salokyo sasti samipya sarupya ekadam apyuta, right? Diyamanam na grunanti. Even if you give also, they will not take these 5 kinds of liberation because bina mahatsevana jana, because there is no opportunity for them to serve the lordships. Right, so a devotee is really only interested in the hearing and chanting the service of the Lord, and especially next week we will be celebrating our, what is that, Narasimha Chaturdasi, and we can really remember some prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, how he was saying Manni Dhana Vijana Rupatrupa Sruta Teja Prabhava Vala Porosa Buddhi Yoga, all of this will not satisfy you, Lord. Right, whatever we might have, what did he really satisfy? Bhaktya tutosa Bhagavan Gajendra, like yes, Gajendra could really satisfy you, because he really offered the love, right? Right, and then Prahlad Maharaj also was saying that, oh, I have seen my father had everything, right? Like Tasmad Amos Tanur Ahma Asisagya, right? Ayur Sriya Vaibhavam Indriyam Avirinchayat, like Brahma to Ant, everybody was really under his supervision, and he was really enjoying so much. But what kind of destination he went through? I don't want that, right? What I realized, Nechami Tebilurida, Uruvikramena Kalatmanopana Nija Vrutyapasa. I just want to serve your devotee in Aradhani. That's what really wants. And that's what a devotee really wants. And Prabhupada towards the end, that's what he's summarizing. A devotee is really a Mahatma. Mahatma means what? He is completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord, and he is under the, under the protection and all the guidance of the internal potency of the Lord, right? Like we hear that, like Mahatma Nastum Mam Partha Devi Prakriti. He's the under Devi Prakriti, not like that Maya Prakriti. He's like he's taking shelter of that one. So how great soul, Mahatma is not that somebody having some designation. Prabhupada says that, right? But it's really about taking shelter of the Supreme Lord. So thank you very much. Yes, and our acharyas, that's why they have really very beautifully taken and given the essence that Vasudevam is everything. Hare Krishna. Any questions and comments? Yes, please.
Thank you for such a beautiful elaboration and such a nice discussion on how Vasudeva is the ultimate object of our life, of the goal of life. So I just had one question. You shared that how to share our love with Krishna to Krishna is like by hearing and chanting about him, his glories. So many times it happens that sometimes I may like to hear some of the things or some of the speakers, or but I've also heard that even if we are not feeling to hear or feeling to chant, but if we still if we hear and chant, that shows that we really love the Lord. Or, so how to develop that particular attitude, because it's very difficult sometimes.
Yeah, so that's a very good question, Prabhuji. Yes, somehow because of our propensity to hear specific part of Bhagavatam or a specific speaker, right? Yes, and that's really shows that we are not able to appreciate the whole form of Krishna. You said Krishna Tulya Bhagavatam, or like the Bhagavata, this Bhagavatam and the Bhakti Bhakta Bhagavat, they are not different, right? And everybody represents whoever sitting in Vyasasana, they represent Vyasadev. But we are not able to appreciate when we have some enviousness, we have some shortcoming that we are not able to appreciate, right? Now at the same time, right? Yes, what do we really need to understand? We need to realize that, right? Yes, so we can continue to hear what do we get inspiration from, right? So that we can continue to develop that bhakti, right? And at the same time, we should also do what we have to do as a part of our sadhana, as a part of our discipline, so that we get purified. So we need both, right? Purification, right? And also some inspiration, right? So yes, like even if you might not like some certain senses of Bhagavatam also, it might look very heavy, right? At the same time, we should take shelter that, oh Lord, you are testing me right now. Right? Please, allow me, give me the strength, please shower your mercy so that I really go through it and I really take shelter. I really understand that I cannot really understand how I have this anartha. Right? Like, hear that, like, how Jananivas Prabhu was hearing Prabhupada's class when he was giving in Hindi or sometimes in Bengali. Right? Yes. That's really the mood that we need to really accept that. Yes, it is the Bhagavatam. Yes. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for this amazing nectar. So, Prabhuji, regarding this yoga which we discussed, so we heard from our superiors also and some senior sannyasis recommending all the devotees to do yoga.
Yes.
And
Asana and pranayams. Yoga, yes, we should do bhakti yoga.
yeah. So basically mentioned common word yoga. It's the meaning is completely different.
Yeah.
So our question is whether we should do or not, since they are
Yes.
not. And the other thing is, so what can be the common word? Pranayam or asana? We do this.
Yes, we just talked about it. Yes, right? Like, because everybody says it, we also use that word, yoga. But yes, I think the right word to be asana and pranayams, right? And yes, we should do it, right? If it really helps. Anukulesa sankalpa pratikulesa, if it really helps us, and it really helps us instead of taking shelter of so many Ayurvedic and allopathy with so many, medicines or allopathic medicine which have so many side effects. Yes, we can really take shelter of, it really helps. Because what you really need to always understand, that what can really, please Krishna, and how can really remember Krishna, how you can really experience Krishna, how you can really help, serve Krishna, how you can really serve Krishna. This press pleasing, you can remember Krishna, experience Krishna, share Krishna, serve Krishna. Whatever really, helps us in doing this, right? We should accept it. Right? Yes, Prabhupada, that's what Prabhupada said. Yes, the sum and substance is to really love Krishna. That's what. And whatever really, helps us, we should accept it. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you for a wonderful question, practical question. Yes. Look forward to some inputs.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. It's a very amazing, wonderful discussion in the morning of this morning class. And you beautifully covered so many aspects of there in this particular sloka. Everything about Vasudeva, all aspects of that, being from the Vedas, Yajnas, Karmas, Kriyas. You have wonderfully covered everything. And just as you said, the Lord's glories are Ananta, unlimited. My words fall short of expressing the same appreciation for the nectar, what we got an opportunity to hear in today's class. And so there's so many learnings. I'm really benefited. Again, what you emphasized on this urgency, the responsibility, the greater responsibility that we have in the human form of life, which Prabhupada has wonderfully quoted in those 9 the words. It's very amazing. It's certainly to meditate on that particular instruction and have that urgency or intensity to perform devotional service. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, just remembering, Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj, he sings this beautiful verse, Sri Krishna Saranam Samasta Jaganam Krishna Vina Kagati. That's also, like contemplates all the 7 aspects of the Vyakaran at the same time, everything, how Krishna is everything. Yes, our acharyas have given everything. We are just trying to repeat whatever they have given. Thank you. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna. Vasudeva Prabhu, thank you for a very wonderful class covering all the various aspects of these 2 verses. And you did touch upon everything. And so definitely within the limited time, you try to do justice to these 2 verses. And you elaborately explained the word Vasudeva with so many Shastric references establishing Krishna as the Supreme Lord. That was very well done initially. And then you went over these various aspects, how Vasudeva is the ultimate goal of the Vedas and sacrifice. And so all these points were well covered. You did touch upon Mayavad philosophy, Mayavadi Krishna Prabhi, and you did touch upon Srila Prabhupada's mood and mission and how Srila Prabhupada engaged the activities of the devotees in Krishna's service and focused on the goal of going back to Godhead. there were some good points for personal application also, how yajna is expressing gratitude to the Lord, hearing and chanting. So all this was very nicely covered with a lot of Shastric references and examples, analogies, everything was nicely covered. Of course, I'm trained to find faults, so therefore some few points for improvement. And of course, I'm pointing out some things which from from your platform or your level should be kept. So you did speak about this analogy of the prisoners and the managers. So and you said the managers are transcendental. Okay, so but if you read Srila Prabhupada's explanation of the analogy, so both the managers and the prisoners are bound by the laws of the king. But even though the king sometimes comes in the prison, he is not bound by the laws of the prison house. The king is therefore always transcendent to the laws of the prison house, as the Lord is always transcendent to the laws. So it's referring to the managers as the demigods and the prisoners as the jivas, and the king to the supreme Lord. So that's the analogy. So the analogy has to be precise, otherwise it conveys a different meaning. And a few points which I felt could be emphasized within preaching application, as Srila Prabhupada points them out. Again, in reference to that same point about demigods and the Supreme Lord. So as Srila Prabhupada writes, there are innumerable powerful demigods who look over the external management of the material world. There are different assisting hands of Lord Vasudeva. Even Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are included in the list of demigods, but Lord Vishnu or Vasudeva is always transcendently situated. So maybe a little bit more elaboration on the position of demigods and Vishnu, and so that could come within preaching application. Now, within personal application, a little before that, Prabhupada speaks about no one, he's talking about the Mahatmas, and after speaking about the Mahatmas, then he says, that should be the aim of life, and that is the verdict of all the Vedic literatures. No one should bother himself with fruitive activities or dry speculation about transcendental knowledge. Everyone should at once engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So here, a point of personal application is pure devotional service without any contamination of karma and jnana. Maybe that's a point for personal application which could be taken into consideration. And also, in the section on tapasya, Srila Prabhupada is also talking about
Vasudeva, it's in Vasudeva.
yes, tapasya modes of passion and ignorance, and so the real tapasya is to please the Supreme Lord. Therefore, if any austerities are to be done, they must be done to achieve the end of knowledge, Vasudeva. So again, a point for personal application as to what tapasya we should be performing and what move. And maybe a little bit more on Srila Prabhupada's mode and mission, how Srila Prabhupada's main preaching was to establish Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and so that's with that view in mind, Srila Prabhupada, you did speak about Srila Prabhupada's strategy. So like that, a few more additional points of that could be added. Otherwise, you really did justice to the verse, and you within a short time you covered the various aspects very wonderfully, and it was well prepared and very well delivered with all the various aspects. Very nicely done. Let's appreciation to Sudhir Guru. Would you like to respond?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for correcting especially the prison analogy. I think that is really, really helpful. And yes, definitely the other aspects like the end objective of tapasya is Vasudeva and Mahatma, and yes, it could have been more elaborated. So thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. So thank all the devotees for giving me this opportunity to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. So today my verse for discussion is first canto, third chapter, verse number 40. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Ready from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, third chapter, verse number 40. So you can repeat the verse along with me. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasti Ayanam Mahat. Idam, this Bhagavatam book. Translation. This Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God and it is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people and it is all successful, all blissful and all perfect. Purport. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declared that Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless, sound representation of all Vedic knowledge and history. There are selected histories of great devotees who are in direct contact with the personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of Lord Sri Krishna and is therefore not different from Srimad Bhagavatam. Not different from him, Srimad Bhagavatam should be worshipped as respectfully as we worship the Lord. Thereby we can derive the ultimate blessings of the Lord through its careful and patient study. As God is all light, all blissful and all perfection, so also is Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have all the transcendental light of the Supreme Brahman, Sri Krishna, from the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam, provided it is received through the medium of the transparent spiritual master. Lord Chaitanya, Private Secretary, Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami, advised all intending visitors who came to see the Lord at Puri to make a study of Bhagavatam from the person Bhagavatam. Person Bhagavatam is the self-realized bona fide spiritual master, and through him only can one understand the lesson of Bhagavatam in order to receive the desired result. So one can derive from the study of Bhagavatam all benefits that are possible to be derived from the personal presence of the Lord. It carries with it all the transcendental blessings of the Lord Sri Krishna that we can expect from his personal contact. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jana Jana Shalakaya Chakshurumritamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Mahim Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathamritam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijasaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamsya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So first let's start with this verse. Shri Shuka Uvacha Atra Sarga Visargasya Sthanam Poshanam Utaya Manvantarenu Ishanu Katha Nirodha Mukti Ashaya. So the 10 subject matters of Srimad Bhagavatam or Sarga, creation, Visarga, creation, secondary creation by Lord Brahma, Sthanam, planetary system. And fourth portion, the maintenance by the Lord, Uti, creative impetus, and Manvantara, the reign of the Manus, so Mukti, liberation, Ishanukata, So discussion on the past tense of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nirodha, annihilation, and Ashraya, the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Srimad Bhagavatam is not different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all his the bodily features of the Lord are compared to the different cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. The first and second cantos represent the lotus feet of the Lord. The third and the fourth cantos represent the thighs of the Lord. The fifth canto, the navel of the Lord. The sixth canto, the chest of the Lord. The seventh and the eighth cantos, the shoulders of the Lord. The ninth canto, the neck of the Lord. The 10th canto, the lotus face of the Lord. The 11th canto, the forehead. And the 12th canto, the head of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, when Srila Prabhupada, before going to America, so he went to Shantipur, so to take the blessings of Advaitacharya. So he went to Shantipur and he was praying to Advaitacharya before he was supposed to leave for America. So, and all the devotees there, they asked Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, we heard that you are going to America for preaching. So, and Srila Prabhupada said that I am not going to America for preaching, but Srimad Bhagavatam is going. And I am accompanying Srimad Bhagavatam. So, this is the faith that Srila Prabhupada had. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, so we'll discuss on the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam in 1 or 2 verses. Krishna Swadama Upagate Dharma Jnanadi Disaha Kalavnashta Dishameta Puranadiko Durmati. So this Bhagavata Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Shri Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali can take light from this Purana. So this talks about the appearance of Srimad Bhagavatam immediately after the departure of Lord Shri Krishna, and in this verse for discussion today, we saw that this Srimad Bhagavatam is not different from the personality of Godhead himself. So it's a literary incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Mother Earth, she felt bereft of the association of the Lord. So she was the one who was most aggrieved when the Supreme Personality of Godhead left this material world. So, and to fill in the gap, so the Lord personally left Srimad Bhagavatam for the benefit of all of us. So, Digama Galpadaro Galitam Panam Shakamukam Dutar Dravya Samyutam Vivatu Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvito. So, expert and thoughtful men relished Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desert tree of Vedic knowledge. It emanated from the lips of Srila Shukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit becomes even more tasteful, although the nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including the liberated souls. So, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped by various paraphernalia. In the Archavigraha form, so we see that the Lord is worshipped by various different kinds of paraphernalia. And how to worship Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Srimad Bhagavatam can be worshipped by the systematic study of this great literature. So, that's how we show our respect to Srimad Bhagavatam. So, generally, people in general have a natural instinct for studying various kinds of literature, and especially in the age of Kali Yuga, the fallen age, where most of the people are driven by the modes of passion and ignorance. We find that people do not have taste for reading Srimad Bhagavatam or the translated literature like Srimad Bhagavatam. So they are more interested in the subject matters, the market literature, so which deal with topics connected to the material body and the subtle mind. So which discuss mostly on the topics of sense gratification. And we see that this market literature is appreciated by the men who are mostly in the lower modes. And also there are various other literature which are glorified by the literary class of men. So though this literature are all decorated with various metaphors, similes, and in a beautiful language and a decorative language. So such literature are appreciated by men. So this is actually glorification of the material literature is like the decorations on the dead body. And it is appreciated by men who are spiritually dead. So that's what Srila Prabhupada writes in the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam, because of the lack of lack of connection to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And such appreciation is compared to the Vayasa Tirtham, or the place of the pilgrimage for the crows. So there are also other literatures, so especially in the political circles, in the field of science and technology, in the politics, philanthropy, altruism, so socialism, nationalism. So there are also many other literatures, so which actually captivates the mind of people, and they all get sold out to these different kinds of ideologies. Actually, before communism started in Russia, so there was an ample distribution of the literature of Karl Marx, so all over Russia, and this distribution of literature and the ideology was bought out by the people of Russia, and this led to the revolution of Russia, and that's how we see communism coming into Russia. So people, when they are not given an opportunity for studying the literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam, they get sold out to different kinds of ideologies, independent of the ideology to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, such and especially the philosophers, the poets, so they all promote the advancement of the materialistic way of life and the materialistic civilization. So, because they promote the materialistic civilization of life, so such people are all sold out dolls in the hands of material energy. So, and Sridhara Swami specifically says that the pressure derived by such people are compared to the pressure of the prostitute hunters, making a very heavy statement. So people in general in the age of Kali Yuga, so they are all attracted to this different kinds of lower class of literature. And what is the remedy? So we can see that the remedy is offered by Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada in the Nectar of Instruction. He says, Shayat Krishna Namadi Charita Sitapte Vidya Pitopta Taptara Sanasyana Rochikanu Kintu Adara Maladinam Kaluseli Jushat Swadit Kramadi Bhoti Tadgata Mulahantri. See, the solution can be offered by disseminating the literature like Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and spreading the glories of the holy name of the Lord. So initially, when such things are disseminated, so people have a resistance to such things. Just like a person affected by jaundice, so he does not have taste for any palatable food. So, but still, sugar candy is administered for such a person. So when sugar candy is administered by the gradual intake of the sugarcane juice or sugar candy, the disease of the person affected by jaundice will be gradually cured. Similarly, so when there is a systematic study of Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and also by the regular and attentive chanting of the holy names of the Lord, so it is mentioned that gradually the disease of material existence is cured from the root. Just like Ayurvedic medicine, so the specific nature of the Ayurvedic medicine is that it cures the disease from the root. So similarly, so this Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, they also cure the disease of the material existence from the root. So, and how this Srimad Bhagavatam, so though this great literature, Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, so they are capable of curing this disease from the root. So how can we develop taste for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam? How can we develop taste for reading Srimad Bhagavatam? So because Srimad Bhagavatam is not like any other literature. So this literature is on a transcendental platform, and it can be appreciated by devotees who are on the transcendental platform. So how we can start developing taste for reading Srimad Bhagavatam is already mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam itself. Mahat Sevadvaram Maho Vimukte Tamodvaram Yusiti Sangisang. So by serving the great devotees of the Lord, so by offering our rendering service to the great devotees of the Lord, so once doors for liberation are becomes wide open. So similarly, Shushusho Shaddadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Sanmayat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishivana. So Shushusho Shaddadanasya by rendering service unto the pure devotees of the Lord. Shushusho Shaddadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi. One will start developing taste for Vasudeva Kataruchi. So they develop taste for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, taste for devotional service, taste for different aspects of devotional service, taste for different items of devotional service. So all these things happens by rendering service unto the Mahatseva. Mahatseva is great personalities, pure devotees of the Lord. So we develop taste for develop for all these aspects of Krishna consciousness, and especially reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and especially taste for hearing. So we see that in the case of Srila Narada Muni. So how though he was a small boy, so he offered his service to the Mahabhagavatas along with the mother. So after offering service, so he also tasted the remnants of the food which was offered to the Mahabhagavatas. And by rendering such service, so what happened ultimately is he developed taste for the devotional service to the Supreme Lord. So similarly, we can also develop taste for Srimad Bhagavatam. We also develop taste for this great literature like Srimad Bhagavatam and different aspects of devotional service by serving the great souls. So that is what Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami in this Srimad Bhagavatam, in this paragraph, he is specifically emphasizing that that one has to hear Bhagavatam from a person Bhagavatam. So Bhagavata Kodiya, Bhagavata Sthana. So one has to hear Bhagavatam from a person Bhagavatam. So, and therefore, one may be, there are many, I can quote few examples. So one of my devotee friend, he was saying that he had a friend, so who read Srimad Bhagavatam. So he was a very educated person. So, and he read Srimad Bhagavatam within 3 months. So, but he did not develop taste for devotional service because Bhagavatam cannot be read as an academic study. So there are also many people who take the study of Srimad Bhagavatam as an academic study, and Srimad Bhagavatam cannot be read like academics. And there are also many devotees many people who have done their PhD thesis on the literations of Jiva Goswami, but they have not become devotees of the Lord because it cannot be done with an academic spirit. So just like one has to approach the spiritual master to learn the path of devotional service. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashtena sevaya upadeshanti te jnanam jnaninam tattvadarshinaha. So one has to approach a spiritual master with an attitude of servitude. So unless we develop this attitude of servitude towards the spiritual master, so we cannot engage in the path of devotional service. So similarly, Bhagavatam also should be approached in the same spirit of servitude. So unless we develop this attitude of servitude to Srimad Bhagavatam and very carefully and systematically study Srimad Bhagavatam, so as the realization of the great acharyas presented in a way for our own benefit, so for our own purification. So Srimad Bhagavatam has to be approached with that spirit. So another aspect, we see that all these great souls, so they had like Srila Narada Muni. So they were always looking how to benefit the conditioned souls of this material world. So we see that Narada Muni also, he told Vyasadeva to write Vedic literature, so which is attractive to the people at large, and at the same time, so people can get liberated from the bondage of material existence. So therefore, we see that Srila Vyasadeva did an elaborate work on dividing the Vedas into dividing one Veda into four. Then he discussed on the Puranas. So then he wrote Mahabharata and all these different literatures. So for the welfare of the people at large. So that and we see that there are hundreds and thousands of literatures, even hundreds and thousands of literature different written by different literary men over ages, but none of them has given any solace to this material world. It has given any solution to the problems of material existence. So only the scriptures like Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, they can give a solution to the problems of material existence. So therefore, when Vyasadeva wrote all these different scriptures, so he was not fully satisfied even after writing such an elaborate discussion on various subject matters, including devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. He was not completely satisfied because the focus was not on exclusive devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he was touching upon various topics, including the worship of the demigods. And therefore, Narada Muni wants Srila Vyasadeva that you have discussed various topics on which people have placed their focus, but you are not emphasizing on the main point of devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, in his maturity, so after being instructed by Srila Narada Muni, so he writes the Srimad Bhagavatam. So after writing Srimad Bhagavatam, so Srila Vyasadeva is completely satisfied, and Narada Muni is specifically emphasizing on this one aspect of reading Srimad Bhagavatam. So any other literature apart from Srimad Bhagavatam, and also a deliberation on any other, even though one may take to the path of the knowledge of self-realization, so but if they don't emphasize on the path of devotional service, such literatures are also condemned. Then what to speak of discussions on many other material subject matters. So therefore, the specific emphasis here is on the core essential aspect of Srimad Bhagavatam, and its goal of pure devotional service. So therefore, different aspects are covered here, which is covered in Srimad Bhagavatam. So Shurvata Swatata Krishna Punyashavana Kirtanaha Hrudayantosto Bhadrani Vidona Desrosatam Nashtaprayesho Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Vaibhav Naistiki Tata Rajasamo Bhava Kamalo Bodhacharye Sete Yete Radavritim Site Sattva Prasidhati Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavad Bhakti Yogataha Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jaya. So here this Srimad Bhagavatam itself gives us the way of progressive life, how a devotee gradually progresses in his spiritual life by taking shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. So all these various shlokas and their discussions, I think many of our devotees have covered the various aspects of these different shlokas and how one can make a progressive approach towards spiritual life at Srimad Bhagavatam. So when many of the liberated souls, so they have a very compassionate nature towards the fallen conditioned souls, the people of the age of Kali, including the sages of Naimisharanya. So the sages of Naimisharanya, they could understand the influence of the age of Kali. So therefore they made a vow that they will perform a sacrifice for 1,000 years. So at Naimisharanya. So Naimisharanya is considered like the center of the universe. So when Brahmaji, he contemplated a wheel, so which covers over the universe. So Naimisharanya was like the pivot. So, and the sages of the Naimisharanya, they performed sacrifice for 1,000 years. And what was the result of such sacrifice was only their faces got blackened. So they could not find a solution to reduce the ill effects of the age of Kali. So therefore, so they approached Sutta Goswami, and Sutta Goswami, and they made there was a question answer session. So the most important, just Muniya sadapishtoham bhavabde lokapangalam yatkrita Krishna samprashno yenatma suprasidhati. So they made questions which are worthy because they relate to the topics of Lord Shri Krishna and they are meant for world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying this. So therefore, so all these sages, so they were very compassionate towards, and they were always looking for the welfare of the people at large. So therefore, they made this, they presented these questions before Srila Sutta Goswami, and Sutta Goswami elaborately gives the answers for all the questions raised by the sages of Naimisharanya. So and also Srila Prabhupada so presented this literature so for the welfare of the people at large. So he wanted to bring a revolution in the hearts of the misdirected civilization. So therefore he elaborates on in the verse of Tadvad Visargo Janatang Viplavo Yasmin Pratishloka Vadvapi Namani Anantyasya Yasho Kritani Yat Shunvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sa. So in this shloka, in the purport of the shloka, so Srila Prabhupada says that so he is discussing on the war between India and China. So in 1962, when he is writing on the purports of Srimad Bhagavatam, he is saying that so earlier there was no differences between China and India, and here now India and China they are fighting for a barren piece of land which is not even inhabitable. This is all because of the influence of the age of Kali. Even though I have nothing to do with this subject matter, why I am bringing this point is because the age of Kali has brought up these disturbances. And how one can find a solution to this problem is by God consciousness. Why there was peace and prosperity all over the world before this situation or before this age is because people were mostly God conscious. And because by the influence of the age of Kali, now things are degrading. And the only way to relieve this is by ample distribution of the great literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srila Prabhupada's purpose of disseminating this knowledge is that he had a great desire that the leaders of this world, they have somehow become God conscious. They somehow get the opportunity to get a hang of Srimad Bhagavatam philosophy. They take to the path of devotional service. Because most of the people in general, so they are all manipulated by the leaders. So therefore, if the leaders take to the path of Krishna consciousness, so then the whole society, there can be a transformation of the whole society. So therefore, he was emphasizing on this one specific point that so this Bhagavatam needs to be disseminated into the public at large. So, and one more thing Srila Prabhupada was emphasizing is that there is a great responsibility on the Indians, and especially on the devotees, that they take to the dissemination of Srimad Bhagavatam very, very seriously. And he is emphasizing this, he is entrusting this responsibility on the Indians because India has failed in her duty to spread the spiritual culture, so the whole world has failed. So he is entrusting this responsibility on the Indians. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada is saying that though I have made this attempt to spread this Krishna consciousness, I am trying to make this presentation as appreciable as possible, but there may be defects in my presentation. So, but when there is an emergency, when the house is set on fire, so you can take any help from any person. So that person may be a foreigner, the person may be a neighbor or a person not known to you also. So, but why I am making this point is to bring the sense of urgency of disseminating Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. So then only, so there can be peace and prosperity and tranquility, and there can be healthy transaction between the people at large. One, by the study of Srimad Bhagavatam, one can derive personal benefit. And for the general mass at large, so there can be a collective purification also, collective purification by the dissemination of Srimad Bhagavatam. So there can be peace and tranquility in the society at large. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada is bringing about the urgency. It is not more about the language, but actually one has to learn the techniques of spiritual life. So these techniques of spiritual life, and this is what has to be taught from Srimad Bhagavatam, has to be learned from Srimad Bhagavatam, has to be taught to the people at large. So this is how one can get a solution, one can get the whole world at large can get benefited. One is personally one can get benefit, and also collectively one can derive benefit. So, and we have Bhagavatam is being, there are many discussions on Srimad Bhagavatam. We have the histories of Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, so and also how people got liberated. So by taking to the path of devotional service and how they made their journeys back home, back to Godhead. So everything is being systematically discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and by the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam is Nama Sankirtanasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranami Dukkha Shamanam Tam Namni Haram Param. So the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam is to chant the holy names of the Lord. So, and this point is being emphasized in Chaitanya Charitamrita Anthelila 4.70 and 4.71. Bhajaner Madhya Sarvashreshta Navavida Bhakti Krishna Prema Krishna Dite Dara Mahashakti Tare Madhya Sarvashreshta Nama Sankirtan Niraparada Namaloye Paya Prevada. So Bhajanera Madhya Sarvashreshta Navavida Bhakti. So one has to take to the path of devotional service. They have to take to the path of Navavida Bhakti. Shravanam Kirtan Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Achara Mandanam Dasam Sakyam Atma Nivedam. And we see that various devotees have attained perfection, taking to the process of Navavida Bhakti. So, and we have the famous example of Parikshit Maharaj and how Parikshit Maharaj attains perfection by the process of Shravan. Shukdev Goswami by the process of Kirtan. So this is the best example of what we have. So how people attain perfection. And Srimad, by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from a bona fide source, so from Shukdev Goswami, who had assimilated all the Vedic literature. So hearing Bhagavatam from a Bhagavatam. So here the person who is hearing is also potent, and the person who is listening is also a potent person. When there is such a process of hearing and chanting the holy names of the Lord, then the result is, so one gets Krishna Prema. And we see that even before the Takshaka could bite Parikshit Maharaj was liberated, he went back home, back to Godhead. So, and the emphasis is on chanting the holy names of the Lord. So, Tare Madhya Sarvashreshta Nama Sankirtan and Niraparada Namaloye Paya. So, and when one takes to the path of devotional service, as it is given in the Guru Parampara, and when one systematically takes to the path, so one can cross the stage of Niraparadana, then come to the stage of, by taking to the path of devotional service, by regular hearing and chanting, one can come to the stage of Namabhas, and finally come to the stage of chanting Shuddhana, the pure chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So that's how, by a systematic application of the techniques of spiritual life, so one can attain the ultimate perfection and make their journey back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. Any question?
Thank you for Thank you for the class and explaining the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam. So while we understand devotional service is the final goal, and Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita has solution for everything. In practical, some such situations where, let us say, devotee is going through some problem. Ultimately, the solution also is devotional service, but we may have to show empathy, and in the practical instance, we should deal with the situation, not just directly giving, okay, read Srimad Bhagavatam or chant. That may not be the first sentence that we should say. We should show empathy. So to develop that quality of empathy, maybe we may have to refer to some non-devotional book. So, should we do that, or how do we deal with that? Because we have to train to show it. So for that training, we may require some other book. Of course, like Srimad Bhagavatam may have it, but until I read everything, I may not be able to understand or develop quality. So how to handle this situation?
Yeah, like how we in the current day scenario, how we can.
Can we go to a non-devotional book?
No, what I'm saying is,
Sir.
so like how in our day-to-day activities, how as devotees, practicing devotees, how we are going to apply the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam is practically is being demonstrated. Like devotees are taking up responsibilities for the center, devotees are taking responsible for various preaching activities. So, and they are trying to serve the pure devotees of the Lord, like Srila Prabhupada, and also they want to please the respective spiritual masters in the Parampara. So, and this Sunday Love Feast program is an opportunity for them to first come and associate with devotees. So here we, though we talk about Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam directly in the classes, still the devotees come to their level and they start dealing with them and giving them Krishna consciousness on their level. So, and it is only a gradual progression. So, and the atmosphere itself is so ambient for people to take to the path of devotional service. And especially when devotees come, they welcome them, they greet them, they make them feel homely. And it is not more on emphasis on giving them the philosophy directly, but first we are giving them an environment by which they accept the path. So to gradually make a progressive step, like they take the baby steps. They can attend our Bhagavad Gita seminars, and also devotees also take care of them. They call them out, they regularly follow, and gradually by an incremental step by step process only the person graduates and takes to the path of devotion.
Thank you for the nice class. So one question I wanted to ask, so as you mentioned that by distributing Srimad Bhagavatam or by distributing this message, we can bring about peace and tranquility. So one aspect is about distribution, as we do in the December marathon. Multiple times we go out distribute these books more and more. But we see out of the many books distributed, hardly people read, like it's just kept in their homes, and very few are the ones, the very few might be the ones who actually take up the book and read the book. So how to solve this problem? Like we want to distribute, we want to bring about peace and tranquility, but when people don't read the books, how will it?
Actually, Srila Prabhupada emphasized on book distribution program very much, so the message of Srimad Bhagavatam reaches to everybody. So, and also we know that Srila Prabhupada books are like the ticking time bombs. So, and somebody in the house may take up the one of Srila Prabhupada's books. They may read and their lives may get transformed. This is one way. So, and also we need the help of the government. So when you want to do a large scale dissemination of Srimad Bhagavatam and the path of devotional service, so it's called as Rajashaya is also required. The king should also be a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one of the aspects where Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in this was Tadvat Visargo, in the purport, he's saying that, so my idea is that this literature reaches to the leading men of the society, so that their lives get transformed, because most of the people are manipulated by the leaders. So when they take to the path of Krishna consciousness, so the whole society gets transformed. This is one of the attempts, and we have seen, and it can be disseminated through the medium of art, culture, and science. Even to this day, in South India, even you go to the small villages nearby. So once in a year, so the whole community comes together and they do various, they celebrate the appearance of the Lord, or like they do the promotion of the particular deity, and the whole community comes together to participate in this activity. And there is also Krishna Katha, and there is also Hari Katha which goes on regularly, and there are also various aspects of Krishna consciousness which can be disseminated through the medium of art and culture. So, and in Karnataka there is a particular art form called as this Yakshagana, so which was actually started by one of the acharyas in the Madhvalai, so called Narahari Tirtha. So this was a medium by which they wanted to propagate the science of Krishna consciousness through this medium of art. So not only these are various attempts to bring about bring about an awareness of devotional service in the general mass at large.
Feedback?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So you very beautifully glorified Srimad Bhagavatam and how it used to be distorted. You talked about contemplative examples of the different movements spread because of the disturbance of the also the lifestyles of the disturbance. And it really came out very strongly in your presentation as well. And you brought out the mood of Srimad Prabhupada, that how Prabhupada wanted to serve Srimad Bhagavatam and how to restore Srimad Bhagavatam. You really also brought the preaching application that how Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence, and also personally also how we should really read, how we should study, and how we should distribute it. And especially just to add a little bit more, maybe with here in the purport, some aspects of the Java Bhagavad Vaishnavas, how we should hear from the bona fide devotees. Because you mentioned about how Parik Maharaj, Patrospada Goswami, that could have a little bit more elaborated. It's what Prabhupada saying in this purport. So, and always an nectar to hear from you. So, thank you very much for sharing so wonderful Krishna. And this is your voice as well. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Venadar Guru, thank you for the elaborate description on this verse. And you very nicely presented the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, the difference between mundane literatures, transliteratures, Vaisam Kirtan, and how one should hear the Bhagavatam from the devotees, get the association of devotees, and then the transformation takes place. And for that, you spoke of the example of Narada. And also how Vyasadeva was dissatisfied, and for that he wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam. So all that was well spoken, and how to bring about peace in society. One must study the Bhagavatam, so some points of preaching application, mode and mission was also quite well covered. And important points of personal application, how to develop taste for hearing the Bhagavatam by Madh Seva and Tadvidi Pranipatena. So all these important points for personal application also well covered. A few points where you could improve are, the first is, as you may have noticed other devotees doing that, so the context of the verse could have been explained in the beginning, especially here, we have sort of jumped into the third chapter, and so therefore what is the context in which the verse has been spoken, and what's the flow. So that should always be mentioned in any Bhagavatam class that we're given, that can always be the beginning. The second important point is also, as Srila Prabhupada himself does in many of his lectures, focusing on important words of the verse. So that can also be done. And so here, what is the Bhagavatam is being spoken of here, and who has written the Bhagavatam, and the purpose of the Bhagavatam. There are 3 points in this verse. So the glories of the Bhagavatam, and who has compiled the Bhagavatam, and for what purpose, or what are the benefits. So in fact, this could be the 3 subtopics of our presentation, and that's how we can have a systematic presentation on the verse. And so therefore, some of these important points, Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam, how non-different from the Supreme Lord, and Chakara Bhagavan Rishi. And the purpose, Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasti Ayanam. So each of these words talking about the goal of or the benefits of studying the Bhagavatam could be further elaborated. Also, as I did mention this point before, whenever we get a chance to include a little bit short stories in our presentation, we should always try to do that. I'm making these points in general for everyone's benefit. as Srila Prabhupada himself would do it. So whenever he would get a chance to include some short stories, he would do that. So here Prabhupada himself is talking about the story of Swarup Damodar Goswami, the secretary to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so Prabhupada very often quoted that, Bhagavad Podiya Bhagavad Stani. But we could just elaborate that pastime to show the context in which Swarup Damodar Goswami spoke that. So as we know, stories always make our presentations a little more interesting and enlightening. So we can always take a chance to do that. And also to illustrate how Tadvidi Pranipatan, as you mentioned, that is what is required to understand the Bhagavatam. And again, to illustrate that, we could tell the story of the South Indian Brahmin Srirangam, who understood the essence of the Bhagavad Gita by following the instructions of the spiritual master. So that's how, when we get a chance, we can always include some short stories within our presentations. Also within preaching application, another important point when our Prabhupada spoke about hearing the Bhagavatam, then not hearing from the professional reciters, and what would be the effects of that. So that could also come within preaching application. Since the verse is talking about what is the Bhagavatam, then we could also speak about various misconceptions about what is the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada speaks about that in the first verse of the Bhagavatam. So that also could be an important part for preaching application. And more in mission, we could speak a little more about Srila Prabhupada's great endeavors to write the Bhagavatam. So maybe we will focus a little bit more on that. And personal application, of course, you did cover many important points. In regards to the questions that were asked, so again, I'm making a general point, both in the case of these classes as well as in the essays that you write. So first of all, what is very important is we understand the question. What is the question that is being asked? And then we focus on that. So the first question that was asked here is, can we read non-devotional books? That was the main focus of the question. So the question was to show empathy and other things. So can we take help of non-devotional literature? That was the essence of the question, but I think so you didn't exactly address that. You spoke some other things. So therefore, we should address the exact question that is being asked. And so, of course, if I were to answer this question, then I would say, as far as possible, we should try to get the answers from the devotees. You spoke about association of devotees and how in the association one learns, but then one must exactly go to the point, so that the person gets the answer to the question. So non-devotional books, if given by devotees in a devotional way, then they can be accepted. So senior devotees also have taken some literature, some principles from outside, and then they sort of spiritualized or Krishnized it and presented to devotees. So then that's fine. But otherwise, on our own, going to non-devotional literatures could be sometimes dangerous, because then that may go into the zone of asatsang, and then we get influenced by the consciousness of that writer. And so therefore, a word of caution on this needs to be there. And I think the second question that was asked was more in terms of how to encourage reading. The question was that we are distributing, but then people are not reading. But then somehow I think so you have a great taste for distribution, and so therefore you spoke about how we can distribute more, right? But the question was how to encourage reading. So therefore, while answering questions, we need to be a little bit careful to exactly see what is the question that's being asked and reply accordingly. Otherwise, very wonderfully you covered the various aspects and the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. You spoke about that initially, introduced the 10 subjects of the Bhagavatam. So that was very wonderfully done. So let's show appreciation to another Prabhu. Hari Bol. Would you like to respond?
Yes, bro. All these various aspects needs to be looked into on the presentation with small stories. I was actually supposed to say the story of the Sri Rangam Brahmana, but thank you.
Thank you. 5 minutes break.
क्लास दे रहा हूँ वो भी आप लोग के साथ
Sitting next to Prabhupada. Presentation है आपका?
मैंने पीपीटी पहले ही बना दिया था मैंने प्रभु से परमिशन ले लिया कॉर्पोरेट मीटिंग का क्या करेगी ये राइट What is this program? How come it is saying like this? Is it done? It's quite small. How to?
We have microscopic eyes. We don't have.
It's fine.
You can't read from back. We're backbenchers. This one is just small.
The last one. Will not be tomorrow, but my wife first time I'm doing it in front of all of you. Don't worry. First time itself. Yeah. I'm very It's like somebody comes to because I was playing cricket, so some cricket analogy. When somebody comes to the first inning and first test match itself, he makes a century. Professor, I'm doing first time, so do not worry. There are examples where we are entering onto the international dais and then making a century in front of all top
Before you say it will be treasure.
No, but it's a good thing.
Oh, Mike is here.
It's a good thing. Like, in front of even newcomers, like, if you fail and all, you'll be very nervous. Now all seniors are there, so if I fail, like, it's fine.
Yeah, if you get corrections also, it is for argument.
All the seniors are there. I'm
One thing is that there is, if you come from conditioning and you feel that there is a failure, actually there's no failure in this endeavor. It's like for when we started classing, from the material perspective, it's a failure. But Prabhupada did not mean that as a failure. It is a stepping stone for the bigger success. And India being part of user of God, there is nothing but after because of conditioning and the way we have been trained from the childhood, anything less than utter failure. That's the training of undo.
much more secured in front of like new crowd or unfamiliar crowd. It's very more.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from first canto, 5th chapter, shloka number 11. We can recite the verse together. Translation covered by Sri Bhakti Vaibhav Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc. of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Purport. It is a qualification of the great thinkers to pick up the best even from the worst. It is said that the intelligent man should pick up nectar from a stalk of poison, should accept gold even from a filthy place, should accept a good and qualified wife even from an obscure family, and should accept a good lesson even from a man or from a teacher who comes from the unacceptables. These are some of the ethical instructions for everyone in every place without exception. But a saint is far above the level of an ordinary man. He is always absorbed in glorifying the Supreme Lord, because by broadcasting the holy name and fame of Supreme Lord, the polluted atmosphere of the world will change, and as a result of propagating the transcendental literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam, people will become sane in their transactions. While preparing this commentation on this particular stanza of Srimad Bhagavatam, we have a crisis before us. Our neighboring friend China has attacked the border of India with the materialistic spirit. We have practically no business in the political field, yet we see that previously there were both China and India, and they both lived peacefully for centuries without ill feeling. The reason is that they lived those days in an atmosphere of God consciousness, and every country over the surface of the world was God-fearing, pure-hearted and simple, and there was no question of political diplomacy. There is no cause for quarrel between the two countries of China and India over the land, which is not very suitable for habitation, and certainly there is no cause for fighting on this issue. But due to the age of quarrel, Kali, which we have discussed, there is always a chance of quarrel on slight provocation. This is due not to the issue in question, but to the polluted atmosphere of this age. Systematically, there is a propaganda by a section of people to stop glorification of the name and fame of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, there is a great need for disseminating the message of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world.
Okay, that's enough.
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasharadhi Shatani. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shivas Adi Gaurva. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. This is my first Bhagavatam class, that too in front of all the seniors, so I'm very nervous. Okay. So I prepared a presentation. So
There's no need of telling us that you're nervous.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so I have this is the 5th chapter, first 11th verse. So first, I'll just give the overview what we are going to discuss. So first, we'll see how, in which context this verse has been spoken. Then we'll discuss some major sections from the Srila Prabhupada's purport. Then we'll discuss some of the themes which is there in the purport and some other additions as well. And different topics are there. So first, setting the context. So this verse is spoken in a section where there is a conversation between Narad and Srila Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva is not satisfied with the literature that he has written. Narada is sort of finding out what is the problem and is giving some solution. So what is the problem? The problem is that Vyasadeva is not feeling satisfied with the work that has been done. And then Narada does the diagnosis of the problem. His work mainly deals with the explanation of Brahman and 4 Purusharthas, Vedas, Vedanta, Vedanta Sutra,
Puranas, Ityasas. And in all of that, what Srila Vyasadeva has explained is mostly about Brahman. Like in Brahman, when I say it is explained in the Vedanta and then little bit summarized in Vedanta Sutra. In Ityasas, Puranas and everything, there are a lot of things which focuses on Dharma, Artha, Moksha and Kama. Moksha is also there, but there is not exclusive glorification of the Lord. So what is the problem with this literature? So in the later verses, Srila Narada says, what is the problem? He says, the people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy and you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is very condemned and it's quite unreasonable because they are guided under your instruction. They will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for the provision. So that exactly is the problem. People will think that whatever is given in the Vedanta Sutra and Ityasas and Puranas, that is the highest. It means that they will start following Dharma, Artha, Kama and moksha up to the Brahman stage, but they won't even realize that there is a Bhagwan feature and there is no exclusive glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's what Narada is saying, you have to do this exclusive glorification. So that is the solution. To write about the personality of Godhead. For example, let us say if we have to explain of the Prime Minister of India. So we can say that Prime Minister is a post, is a person who is very, very powerful. He's the head of the Lok Sabha, he lot of controls the entire parliament, he passes a lot of laws, he's commander in chief of all the armies and everything. So it looks very nice, the person is very, very powerful, he has this much feature and everything. But still it's not very personal. You can't fall in love with the person who is Prime Minister, we have all this power. But if we give a personality, that the name of the person is Narendra Modi, you show him, he's a Gujarati, he's a person who loves certain kind of food, he loves certain kind of festival, something like that. Now there's a chance to fall in love with that person. You start knowing that person. So in the same way, when it is explained about the Lord in all of his powers and all of his functions and everything, that's very nice. We get to know the glory. But what actually he does in his free time? Okay, who is that person? He plays at the bank of Yamuna. Okay, he sort of plays with gopis and gopas and everything. So no, there is a person. So you have to exclusively write about that person. So that's the problem and that's the solution. Now, after setting the context, so basically in the previous verse, Narada is basically telling what is not good literature. He's telling Vyasam Tirtham, which is a bad literature. And then in this verse, he explains what is the right literature. Okay, so that's the connection between the two verses. Now, if we see through the Prabhupada's purport, so these are the major highlights of Prabhupada's purpose. So first he explains what a saint truly is. Okay, so he says he accepts nectar, gold, wife, and then he gives that's something which has not been, it's not obtainable from a right place, but still a sadhu accepts it. So this part of the purport, it shows that a devotee is a sargrahi, just like Krishna is a sargrahi. In the same way, a devotee is also sargrahi, sees the good in everyone. Okay, and Vaishnava never sees faults. For example, the full moon. So some person may say that full moon is there, but there are some spots. But a Vaishnava or a devotee will see the beauty of the moon, and he will just appreciate the beauty. The second aspect which Prabhupada discusses, India-China war, why they are fighting and what is the solution. So as Prabhuji in previous lecture also, he sort of explained because of the absence of the God consciousness, people are fighting, and these are basically identifying themselves with the community, with the country, and that's why they want to grab to the particular land and everything, and that's why there's the problem. And then he gives a solution that if the leaders of the world follow like Srimad Bhagavatam and the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, then common man will follow them, and that will really solve the problem, and that will change their hearts. The third aspect which Prabhupada discusses, the Bhakti scriptures are best despite the shortcoming. Okay, this I didn't read, but it's there. He says that even though we are writing, it's in a foreign language, there might be some literary shortcomings and everything, but he says that people who are thoroughly honest, who are sadhavas, they will definitely accept it. And then he says, then another theme is that honest attempt will always be accepted despite the shortcomings. Why? The reason he gives is that technique is very, very important. So it doesn't matter how much theoretical elaboration we are doing, but as long as we are doing the practical in the purest form, then it will have its effect. Then he gives an example. House is on fire. So even if the neighbor does not understand our language, but he sees that there is an urgency, he will act accordingly. So that's why Prabhupada is trying to say that honest attempt will always be appreciated. Last, he discusses about what is the literature that is generally being discussed, what is the problem with that literature, and what should be the right literature that we should do. So this is another theme which Prabhupada is discussing. The world is full of materialistic sense gratification literatures, which is the main cause of war. He sort of relates with the China war. He goes to leaders are misguided. Why they are misguided? Because they are not reading the right literature. So he sort of connects the entire thing. He connects reading of the literature with the India-China war. So Srimad Bhagavatam will give the right kind of literature to read. And he says initially it will be bitter because we are in a conditioned state, but as we progress, then we'll start enjoying it. Okay, so this is the overall structure of the entire purport, and these are the major themes. Out of these themes, we'll discuss few. Okay, first I want to discuss the genius of Prabhupada. So if you see the context of this verse, so verse specifically, Narada is basically saying what is a bad literature, what is a Vyasam Tirtham, is basically he's pointing towards the other literature which Vyasadeva has written, the subject matter of 4 Purushartha, Vedanta Sutra or Itihasas or Purana, something like that. But see the genius of Prabhupada, he is not focusing upon them because this is meant for another audience. How Prabhupada is setting the context, he's making the entire message relevant by telling, in 1.5.10, he basically point out what is the problem. He names these people: social literary man, scientists, mundane poets, theoretical philosophers, politicians. So he is naming their literature as a bad literature or Vyasam Tirtham. He's not exactly saying that Vedanta Sutra is something like a problem with the Vedanta Sutra or something, but he's making the message very, very relevant for the people in the current context. So that's the genius of the Prabhupada. Okay, now he says, due to the age of quarrel, Kali, which we have discussed, there is always a chance of quarrel or slight provocation. Okay, so see how he connects the entire thing. Okay, so not reading the right literature is leading to the war, is leading to the provocation, and that is leading to the war. So see, he's basically, Prabhupada is very well aware his audience. Okay, he knows if his literature is actually going to solve the problem of the world, only then people are going to accept it. So he's basically making the entire message very, very relevant for the present audience. So that's his genius. And it's not just about this verse. If you see, a lot of things might have been said or have been told according to the audience of that time. For example, Jiva Goswami's literature and everything, it is meant for Mayavadis and very well read scholars. But how Prabhupada understands everything, he gets the essence of everything, and he presents as a solution of our current day problems. So that's the genius of our Acharya. Okay, now this theme that Srimad Bhagavatam is the cure of all problems is a very recurrent theme in this particular verse. So it might happen that some of us may get challenged in public. Like, is it really Srimad Bhagavatam? Because we see so many problems like environmental problems, border security, wars and everything. Okay, so we might say, yeah, if you take a Bhagavatam, then things will be fine and everything. But we might get challenged, right? Are you really sure? Give us some case study or something. How can you really say that? So if we see about India and China, Prabhupada is writing in 1962, but the story still goes on till 60 years later. So we can say there are border problems, trade problems, India-US relationship and everything. The things are very, very complex. Okay. Now we come and we say in public, Srimad Bhagavatam is the solution of everything. So how do you prove that? So Prabhupada is making this statement. He's saying, what is the problem? If you ask a scholar who is expert in international relation, he will give a lot of analysis. What is the difference? What is the problem between India and China? He will say border, cultural difference, historical baggage and everything. But if you ask Prabhupada, he will say, due to the polluted atmosphere of this age, systematically there is propaganda by section of people to stop the glorification of name and fame of the Supreme Lord. And if you ask him the solution, he will say, we are confident that if the transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam is received only by the leading men of the world, certainly there will be a change of heart. Okay. It becomes very difficult. Okay. So experts are saying some other solution. Okay, start engaging with the political leaders, this conference, that conference, and everything. But Prabhupada is saying something very, very revolutionary. So if you have to give a proof, then how will you prove that? You will prove by this. Okay. So when the message of Srimad Bhagavatam has been taught to the Chinese people, okay, they started taking up this process. Okay. After that, they will understand this identity of being a Chinese or Chinese territory or Indian territory, or there is a difference in everything. It will dilute. It will evaporate. So it means that if people start taking up this process, they will choose a leader who will also understand this message, that these differences among the two countries is very, very temporary and all. Okay. So actually by Srila Prabhupada's disciple and his grand disciples and all the preachers and everything, they are actually showing how this is possible. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the cure. Okay, it might happen that the start may be slow, but eventually this is the solution. Because if the conferences and war and negotiation and diplomacy could have been solution, it has been 60 years. So there is no solution. The problem is still increasing. But if we start with Srimad Bhagavatam, slowly and slowly there will be much more progress. Okay, so that's how he's sort of explaining. So this particular verse phrase, the Tadva Visargo Janata Viplavo, directed towards bringing about a revolution in the empire's lives of this world's misdirected civilization. It's a practical case study how basically Bhagavatam can solve the problems of the world. And we can boldly claim that it is capable of it. It's just that we are not picking up in the manner and the scale that we want. Another theme of this purport is that what exactly we are supposed to read and what exactly we are reading. So it starts with the question, like Prabhupada says, it's a mundane literature, it's a material sense gratification. But if we dig a little bit deeper, okay, actually people are looking for very, very deep answers. So what are some of the questions and they are asking, and what are the answers that they are expecting? So let us suppose if we remove all the religious or Vedic understanding from the people, if you just born in this world and you are wondering where am I, so there are certain questions you will naturally ask. You will ask, who am I? What is this body? Okay. So basically, it's the first question you will try to ask. Second, you will see the world around you. You will say, what is this world? Where am I actually in? Then third, you will ask, where have I come from? What is my origin? Okay. Then you will ask, okay, there is certain lifespan I'm going to spend in this particular world. What is the purpose of this living? And then you'll ask, okay, I have to spend 100 years or 50 years in this particular world. What is the best way to live? So if you see the sum total of the entire human civilization, it can be summed up. All the literature has been written in order to somehow understand these particular questions. For example, we understand entire biology and everything. We try to learn about psychology, mind, how the mind works, how the body works. We are trying to understand, who am I? What is this body? When we try to understand this world, we go to the very micro level, atoms, Higgs boson, this, that, everything. They have to understand what is this world that we are living in. They go to the very macro level, this universe, galaxy. They are trying to understand basically what is this dark and cold world we are living in. Okay, so all the literature and everything has been written to understand this. Third is where we have come from, all the evolutionary science and history and everything. It's trying to understand what is our origin, from where we are coming, what is the connection, how we reach there. What is the purpose of life? Now, this is a very, very complex problem. Okay, so I'm a student of philosophy and I understand how much the Western philosophers are basically struggling to understand what is the purpose of life. So Aristotle might say, live a moral life, that is the ultimate good. A utilitarian might say, no, you just focus upon the materialistic gains. As much as you maximize the material gains, that is the aim of life. Existentialism will say there is no purpose of life. Every different person has a different meaning of the life, and you create the meaning according to your experiences. It's very subjective. That's Jean-Paul Sartre says. Absurdism, it says the world is too complex and we are conditioned to reason, and we are trying to impose our reason on something unreasonable. So that's absurdism. So it's better we do not understand any meaning in the life. So that's what absurdism says. Environmentalism, it says living in harmony with nature. So you see, all the scholars are very, very confused. What exactly is the purpose of life, and how much chaos is there? And I can understand, when I read these philosophers and everything, I can understand how much misdirected we are. And once you understand how we live in this world, then there are certain people who will say, okay, you organize the state in this way. The democracy is best, oligarchy is best, autocracy is best. No, you understand the market with capitalism, socialism, mixed economy, Keynesian economics. Then you say how to organize society. Okay, you try communitarism, you try individualism, you try tribal culture, this, that, and everything. So you understand people are actually looking for answers. In that quest, they are writing all of this. Now, if you ask all of these questions to Srimad Bhagavatam or our Vedic scriptures, so do we have the answers of this? If we have the answer for all of this, then actually we can boldly say Srimad Bhagavatam has answer to all the questions. It is the particular book. So if you see the entire human civilization or race, they have written so much literature to understand everything. And our acharyas, or basically Shukdev Goswami, summarize everything in 18 cantos. Okay, so we have answer to all of this question. For example, some of the shlokas I quote. For example, who we are. Okay, so basically in this one, Bhumiraro Nalo Vayu Kham Mana Burde Evacha. So in this one, Krishna basically says, okay, the 5 elements and the 3 elements. So it's a very condensed thing. The point is that if we try to start researching all this and we go in this direction, we'll get the right answers. Okay, how basically they come, what is mind, what is intelligence, what is false ego. Is that the starting point is wrong. That's why we are going the wrong direction. So at least Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam gives the right starting point from where we have to start. Okay, and in this, what is the micro world or the macro level? Andastaratam, Parmanu Chayastaratam. It means, and whenever you reach the end, what you will find Paramatma. So he's the one who is animating the entire thing. It's not that things are happening in their own way. There is a very conscious living entity who is animating the entire world. So we start with this assumption that in the end we'll find an animated, a living person. So then our research will be directed in that way. So that's the direction which Bhagavatam is giving. Okay, what is the purpose of life? Obviously, Sarva Dharman Paritajya. But you see, our Acharyas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's not that we are going through the life and then we are discovering something. Ki, what is the purpose of life? Very, very systematically he's telling what is the Sambandha, what is the Abhedeya, what is the Prayojana. He's very, very clear ki, what is the purpose of life, how to achieve it, and how to understand this, the relationship between you and the world, the relationship between world and the Lord, the relationship between the living entity and the Lord. So the entire triangle, it's very, very properly explained. You do not have to speculate much. So if this is the starting point, we can mold the entire philosophical quest in this particular direction. And how to live in the world, society, market, state, how to organize this. Then we have Chaturvanya Manashishtam Guna Karma Vibhakasha. So if you analyze these 8 categories, and it basically solves all the problems of the society. The state is solved, the market is solved, the society is solved. Even additionally, you have the spiritual goals as well. So something extra is also being given. It's just that enough research or enough, basically not research is not the right word, is that the following of this particular principles is what is required. It means that present day, the people are going in the wrong direction. The starting point is very wrong. So if we give them, this is what Bhakti Shastras has to offer, and we make this as a starting point, then it will actually solve all the problem. So in this way, I'm trying to prove this particular point, that Srimad Bhagavatam truly has answers to all the questions that are there. Next is that obviously read from the right source. Okay, we have to leave the world. Okay, that's the one of the important message. And we have to live in the world. So that is also there in the scriptures. And know the world before leaving the world. Okay, so everything has been answered in our scriptures. Everything there is in the Srila Prabhupada books also. This is the final point, that okay, there are Vedanta Sutra, there are Itihasas, Puranas, and so many things. So is everything there in Prabhupada books? Yes, it is there. I have heard from the senior Vaishnavas who have read all of the Shat Darshan or Sat Sandarbhas of Jiva Goswami and everything. They said everything in essence form, in a manner that you can understand, it's there in Srila Prabhupada books. Okay, so for example, in Shat Darshan, some of the question has been also raised ki before sitting on the Vyas Asan, one should know all the 6 Sandarbha, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, and everything. But I have tried to understand these Shat Darshana. But if you actually see, if a person who has gone through Srila Prabhupada books very thoroughly, if you ask him a challenge from Nyaya or Vaisheshika or something like that, he'll be able to answer. For example, if he asks about Sankhya philosophy, so Sankhya atheistic Sankhya says the analysis of the 24 elements is all in all. Okay, it might happen, you might not understand the technicalities of the how that particular scholar has reached this conclusion, but you are capable enough to refute this argument that no, apart from this 24 element, there is a person who is controlling or basically a source of these 24 elements. So you have all the answers. It might happen, you might know what is the source, or basically, so everything is Prabhupada's purport. Even if you talk about, I was hearing one of the lecture by Radhika Raman Prabhu. He was explaining a very, very beautiful conceptual understanding of how Jiva Goswami prove step by step. He starts from the physical world, then he connects it to the living entity, then he connects it to the supreme controller, then he goes to the Paramatma, then he goes to the Bhagwan. Okay, that's a very beautiful connection is there. And he explains how a philosopher explains. Okay, but he also points out to one of the purport of Prabhupada. He says exact argument has been given there. So it means that it might happen, we might not be able to understand or read Srila Jiva Goswami literature, but everything there is in Prabhupada purport or Prabhupada books. Okay, so the conclusion is that people have the right questions, but they are looking for answers at the wrong place. So this is the essence of this verse. Okay, tell them where is the right source. Now, what do we do once we as a devotee understand all of this? Is that we have to read the literature and we have to distribute the literature. So going through all the literature very, very thoroughly, asking right questions, making notes, deliberate, contemplate and everything. And we try to distribute. Because if we have the confidence, if we are so bold that it has answers to all the questions, then when you go on the street and you're fully convinced, if that person goes through the entire book properly, then all of the questions of his life will also get answered. Because even coming before to Bhakti, I have all these questions, very philosophical questions. But when I start reading, start hearing from Prabhupada and other senior Vaishnavas, a lot of my questions got answered. And even more beyond that, like your questions might be limited to these questions, but Bhakti has something, or Bhakti Shastra has something more to offer. Okay. I think, okay, I'll first connect the last point, which is technique is more important. So this is another theme of Srila Prabhupada's purport, which is very, very important. He's trying to say this particular phrase that Shravanti, Gayanti, Grayanti, Sadhava. So he's trying to explain a person who is thoroughly honest, who is a Sadhava. He will understand that what is the core message? Okay, he will understand. He won't go into so many technicalities, how Prabhupada has translated, where he has given Krishna, where he has not given Krishna, he's terming to Karma Yoga, also as Bhakti Yoga and everything. If he just follows what Prabhupada is saying, okay, chant rounds, do your sadhana, read the books, go and distribute, and do some seva to the Lord. If he follow these techniques, because all the literature or theoretical aspect is to bring you to this point, so that you do this, okay, and someone picks up this technique, he will see the change. Okay, and in many of the lectures I have heard that how Prabhupada practically demonstrated this. He was coming from India with a very heavy Bengali accent, and he was giving lectures to this hippie who are not in a proper mental state and everything. It might happen they might not understand the entire philosophy of what Prabhupada was going to offer, but they understood what he's asking them to do in a practical life. They followed it, and a huge change was witnessed in their personality and everything. And later they were able to understand the theoretical aspects as well. So this technical science of spiritual subject, okay, it is also reflected in one of the purpose of the ISKCON as well, to systematically propagate the spiritual knowledge to the society at large, to educate people in the techniques of the spiritual life. So practically what we have to do, okay, so even what I told you, all the questions that we are dealing with in like philosophy, okay, so they are very at theoretical level, but Prabhupada has something to offer on a practical level as well. Okay, for example, file in the house example we have discussed. And it is like a medicine which is made by an English researcher or a Russian researcher. It will have its effect if it's properly made. Okay, so something like it's the Prabhupada we have discussed, and Prabhupada's conviction and faith that if you follow this particular process, the things will work out. And things are very, very simple. For example, Hare Krishna Mahamantra is same for everyone. The four regulatory principles are same for everyone. The principles of devotional life, the Vaishnava etiquette, how to worship deity, and how to relate with other Vaishnavas, these are very standard things. Okay, so if we practice all of this, then we will start seeing the changes. So this is the very, very important force of this particular purport. The technique is very, very important. Now, if I have time left, I will go to this one. Yashvin Priti Shlokam Abhidya Api. Even though imperfectly composed. So I was basically trying to understand why Srila Narad has said that Bhakti literatures, even though imperfectly done. So it doesn't make sense. Once we are saying Bhakti literature is all in all, it's all perfect, there is no truti and everything, then how come he's attaching this particular adjective of being imperfectly done? Is he meaning it literally, that there could be some shloka, some meter or something? No, like that. I've heard from the senior Vaishnavas that Srimad Bhagavatam is one of the best offering of Srila Vyasadeva in terms of meter, in terms of the composition, everything. So from a grammatical point of view, it's perfect. Is there a problem with the message, with the philosophy? No, it's the highest message. Is the problem with the poetic and everything? No, it's all perfect. So obviously this Srimad Bhagavatam has no problem with it. So it might happen that Prabhupada is also mentioning that there might be some difficulties, there might be some imperfections. So actually he might be referring to the foreign language, maybe some grammatical mistake or something. So I actually went back to 1944 BTG's version. I don't know whether his disciples have corrected it, but I actually took some sentences or phrases from them and put into the most advanced AI to find some grammatical mistake. There was nothing. Okay. Is there a problem with the philosophy which Prabhupada has presented? No, there is no philosophy. By following his philosophies, the hippies have become happy. So there is no problem with the literature, there is no problem with the grammar, there is no problem with the message. Okay. And there is a like when you write English literature, you read a lot of poetic devices to explain your point. But Prabhupada is also expert in that. When he wrote that composition for his Guru Maharaj, okay, so that was so well composed, and even his Jaluta prayers and everything. So everything is there. Then how come this understanding that something is imperfectly composed? So my understanding is that there is no imperfections. It's just the humility of our acharyas. It's just the humility of Srila Prabhupada. He's saying, even if there is something, please forgive us, but accept this message. This is the mood of Prabhupada. This is the one aspect. Second aspect, when I was going through the other verses in the same chapter, I found this particular verse, which according to me could be related to this thing. Srila Vaishnavas can correct me, but this is my understanding. The verse says, one who has forsaken his material occupation to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometime fall down while in an immature stage. Yet there is no danger as being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged occupational duties, does not gain anything. It's trying to say, when you start practicing bhakti, it might happen you might not do it fully correct. There might be some shortcomings, but still you are not a loser. You will gain immensely. But on the other hand, okay, now this is a comparison to Vyasam Tirthan. So if you fully understand all the material literature which is out there, it is same to we are performing all your material duties perfectly, but still you will be a loser. So there could be some metaphorical understanding of what acharyas are saying when they're saying there could be some truti, there could be some imperfection with the Bhakti Shastra. It is like in practice, as a sadhaka, he might fall down, but still we have to make sure, we have to understand that it's not a fall down. Okay, he's ultimately gaining a lot. So that's the understanding. And now I'm almost done with my presentation. So we'll just summarize. So first we started with setting the context. We understand the conversation between Srila Vyasadeva and Narada Muni, and how basically what was the problem, what was the diagnosis of the problem, and what is the solution. Second, we understand major sections from Prabhupada's purport. Okay, we understand what are the major themes which are there in the purport. Then we understand what is the genius of Srila Prabhupada, how basically he's basically understanding everything which is there in our Shastras. He's making the essence and he's presenting in order to solve the problems of the present day. So he's making the message very, very relevant for the present day audience. Then we contemplated on this question, is Srimad Bhagavatam cure of all problems? Okay, then we saw the example of India and China, how we can basically solve. Then we discussed about people want to read, what they want to read, what is the actually answers they are looking for, and is our claim that Bhagavatam has all the answers, is it correct? We validated that particular argument. What is the meaning of imperfectly done? We contemplated on that. And in the end, we discussed that technique is very, very important. Okay, it might happen, you might not understand the entire theoretical and philosophical understanding, but if you practice, the results will be there. Hare Krishna.
Questions?
Yes, please. Yes, sir.
Thank you for the wonderful systematic presentation. In your presentation, so you mentioned that how, so you've assumed good intent on the part of people, that people are actually searching for the answers, and but they have the right questions, but they're searching in the wrong place. Whereas if we read the purport of Srila Prabhupada, so Srila Prabhupada says that in many countries, there are bodies appointed by the state to detect and censor obscene literatures. This means that the government does not want it, responsible leaders don't want it, but the people want it for their own sense gratification. And then Srila Prabhupada highlights that this is primarily because of the corrupt mind of the people in general. And then he says that Srimad Bhagavatam will not only diminish the activities of the corrupt mind, but it will supply food for their hankering after reading some interesting literature. In the beginning, they may not like it, and then but then Srila Prabhupada says that this is the remedy, just like sugarcane juice is the remedy. Then he says that. Then my question is how, because people will not like it, how do we force them to take it? And also because you have assumed good intent that they are looking for the right questions, but if we just at least on the surface, if we read the purport, that they are actually looking for sense gratification also, and they are looking for some interesting things. Then Srila Prabhupada sort of answers the question also. He says that let there be systematic propaganda for popularizing reading of the Bhagavad Gita. So in your opinion, like how can this be done? How can the reading of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam be popularized?
Okay, there are two aspects of the question. The first question is related to my presentation, where I'm saying there are certain questions that we are looking for, and we are looking for that answer, and in that quest we are writing so many mundane literature. But if we read the purport, it says basically you are looking for some cheap, mundane, entertainment kind of literature. Okay, so how do we reconcile? Actually, I also contemplated when I was preparing this particular section. So my understanding is that there are certain people in the society who set the agenda or basically the entire direction of the society. Okay, for example, if you see the entire churning of this political process of this democracy and everything, it started 500 or 400 years back. Some scholars have written about, okay, kings have so much power, it's morally bad. Actually, people who should elect their leaders and everything. So it's a very small thought that started. Now it has rolled down into this present day democracy and everything. For example, similarly with the socialism, with capitalism and everything. So these scholars, these philosophers, who are basically trying to understand or answer the very, very deep questions of the people, they come up with a lot of philosophy and everything. When they set these agendas in a very wrong direction, then a lot of generation later, people start pursuing without even understanding that they are basically following their propaganda. So in the similar fashion, when Renaissance happened, okay, in Europe, and slowly there was a negation of the church and everything. So people started questioning the authority of religion, God, Bible, and everything. And they started searching. We do not have to look beyond the world, but we have to look inside the world, how to live in this world, how to best utilize our body. Okay. From there, they set the agenda to best live in this world with the material things. Okay. So when this goes a lot of generation later, so it becomes try to enjoy as much as possible with this body in this world with the resources around you. When this goes as a message to the new generation and everything, it doesn't even cross their mind that something could be wrong, morally wrong or something like that, because agenda has been set 500 years back. It is coming down and down and down and down. And when they read all this mundane literature, all this related to sex literature or everything, they do not even understand that someone has set the agenda that there is no wrong in pursuing these bodily urges, okay? Because there is no God, there is no religion, because agenda has been set very, very far away. So they are basically following the same. So their acharyas are something like that. Their acharyas, okay. So it happens, they are basically in the disciplic section of these acharyas, okay. So they have not been told that what you are reading is wrong. Okay, so basically Prabhupada is answering the last person who is now his current audience to basically saying you are reading the wrong literature, come to my side, I'll give you the right literature. Okay, so something that. So when Acharya sets the right direction, this is the literature that you have to read, then it rolls down, okay, into understanding of what is right, what is wrong, what we have to pursue. Okay, so in the similar fashion, the current generation is pursuing, okay, how to earn money, how to enjoy this life, and all of this thing. But the agenda has been set long back. So in this fashion, I'm trying to connect that if Srimad Bhagavatam sets the right agenda, which Prabhupada is doing, okay, then it will roll down to, we will be very, very careful not reading this mundane literature and everything. And second question was about how do we popularize this particular thing. I can understand. If you go to general public, these are very philosophical things, okay. People in general, especially the current age, it's very, very difficult. It's just, my nature is that I like philosophy. It might happen, it might appeal to me, okay. But it's very difficult for people in general. But my point is, again, Prabhupada when went, he was always looking for meeting with the big leaders. He was going to MIT, which is one of the top institute, and he was saying, where is the department which can discriminate between dead body and a living soul? He was very, very clear. The message to start from the people who set the agenda of the world. That's why in Purport also he writes, if the leaders of the world, they take up this message, okay, because people who are down the line in the lower hierarchy, they are basically of Shudra mentality and everything. They cannot set the agenda of the world. These people can set the agenda of the world. So that's why even a lot of sannyasi like Gopal Krishna Maharaj and all, they are training these political leaders and everything. So when these people who can actually think, these people who set the agenda for what should be the next technological advancement, what should be the next, how to understand the markets, how to understand the society, how to understand what is the purpose of life and everything. If they are fed this Srimad Bhagavatam, then the kind of agenda they will set, it will become, a ripple effect, a rolling effect for the people who are looking up to them. Okay, so in this fashion, it might not appeal directly to the general people in general, but it is this kind of presentation, this kind of presentation will definitely appeal to people who are actually looking for these answers. Then they will set, for example, Sarup Damodar Goswami Maharaj, and he was a very, very, very qualified person. He had a very good understanding of the material science. He was very well educated. But when he was given the access to Prabhupada's literature, it was he utilized all his understanding to make the message more and more understandable for the people of his community, which is the scientific community. In the similar fashion, Radhika Raman Prabhu, the scholars like Radhika Raman Prabhu, who is teaching in a very good university, when they have been given, he has a very good intelligence to understand the philosophical problems of the world. But when he has the access to Srimad Bhagavatam, he can make the whole world to look through the lens of Srimad Bhagavatam, how to understand the problem of this world, how to solve this particular problem of the world. So I agree with you. In a very popular sense, it might be very difficult, but what Prabhupada says, if we teach to the leaders and the people who set the agenda of the world, it will be very, very effective. So that is my understanding. Hare Krishna.
Okay, feedback?
Just some cricket analogy here. When the cricketer comes in the international level, and when he takes the entry, and in the first match itself he hit the century. So wonderfully done, and very nicely done, very systematically done. And I could see that you have very much inclinations to understand the philosophies of all those things. And you try to compare that and ultimately come to the conclusion about Srimad Bhagavatam. It was very, very nice. And then context was very, very nicely given. Then Srila Prabhupada's purpose put into the 5 things, and each of the things very nicely concluded. And very nicely the preaching application, personal application, mood of Srila Prabhupada, and a couple of things which personally I felt very mesmerizing, that you could see the mood of Srila Prabhupada, that which you said that is like amazing. And the second thing, that is Srimad Bhagavatam, glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, which was very, very, very nice. Just one caution here, because we come to some background and then that inclination is there. So we need to see that what kind of audience we have. Today it could be okay, but when you go into the suppose like very newcomers and all the things, so that could be bouncers for them. But it could be, you have to just keep in that mind. But the way you did it is like, it is a double century, not only a single century. So fantastic, and I wish you all the best, and see that how you probably compare all these different philosophies down the line, and see that how Srila Prabhupada was teaching. And that also one point you very nicely mentioned, everything is there in Srila Prabhupada books. And I think this is fantastic, because today we think that, oh, Srila Prabhupada books are very simple, I may have to go somewhere, find something. No, you mentioned that everything is there in Srila Prabhupada books. So you may compare, as your personal inclination is there, interest is there, compare all these philosophies and prove that how Srila Prabhupada books and our philosophy is the best among them. Thank you, Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
It is one of my deep desires to present the world in this way.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, Vijay Kumar Prabhu, thank you for a very systematic and wonderful presentation with the beautiful analysis of Srila Prabhupada's purport. And so, as already mentioned by you, Bishop Proyapin, was very beautifully done. And you practically covered all the various aspects of the purport. And many important points for preaching application, especially how Srimad Bhagavatam is the solution to all problems. And very well emphasized on Srila Prabhupada's mode and mission, preaching how Srila Prabhupada wrote his purports according to the context. So that was very well done. And important points for personal application also, especially in regards to the techniques, how the techniques are important. And so all the various points have been nicely covered. So I felt a little bit could have gone into personal application part. So the personal application part, because towards the end it says Shrinvanti, Gayanti, Grinanti, Sadhu. Okay, so there are 3 things that are there: Shrinvanti, Gayanti, and Grinanti. So in personal application, maybe that could have been a little bit more elaborated. And also, what does sadhava exactly mean? So, as Srila Prabhupada in the word to word, he says, the purified men who are honest. So, some of these words have a very in-depth meaning, which we could focus on. And since you have an analytical brain, so I'm giving you this feedback, so that you could analyze these words also, and find out why exactly Narada Muni is saying sadhava, and why Srila Prabhupada translated this as purified men who are honest. So maybe you could further elaborate and continue your presentation sometime. So that's a point. Now, in regards to the question as to what are the faults, so I think Srila Prabhupada does make it quite clear what faults he's referring to in the purport. He says, "Are presenting this matter in adequate language, especially a foreign language, will certainly fail, and there will be so many literary discrepancies despite our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. But we are sure that with all our faults in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration." And so, Srila Prabhupada seems to be referring to some discrepancies in language, and things like that, which could be there. But also, if you see, Abadavati api. So api means in spite of. And api also means that it's not necessary they have to be there, even if they are there. So that means it's not necessary they have to be there, but even if they are there, the sadhus will not take that into consideration. So it's not that they have to be there. And so we do understand that as Srila Prabhupada, of course, humbly is presenting, but somebody could say that in Srila Prabhupada's presentation, some grammatical errors here and there could be there. But then that's not the most important focus point, but the focus is on the essence, and that's the technique. So I think so that's another point which we did. Otherwise, definitely, as Yogesh Bruce rightly pointed out, very beautiful presentation, very systematic, and of course, the presentation didn't depict any nervousness. So it was very well done. Thank you very much. This appreciation to Bishop Kumar Guru. Very good. Would like to respond?
Thank you so much for all the feedback. I'll try to inculcate all your instructions. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.